with the President of Mexico and with Secretary Blinken and Secretary Raimondo, Ambassador Salazar, and all our friends from Mexico. Welcome, everyone. Want to welcome you once more to this Ministry of the Economy of Mexico. First of all, we want to thank you for understanding, because we did change the venue. This is the first anniversary of this first edition of the High-Level Economic Dialogue, which signifies promoting a cooperation in a relationship. As we said this morning, Dr. De La Mora had an extraordinary meeting with stakeholders, with the academy, with the business community, and governments. She said that in such a broad relationship as the one we have between Mexico and the United States, well, there are all sorts of situations that arise. But we also have the very big commitment to address controversies and differences and to look for new ways to cooperate with each other. That's why we're moving forward. And we think one of these mechanisms is the high-level economic dialogue, which is very good for us institutions to be able to find mechanisms of collaboration and how to continue moving forward. In this case, we've set conditions to have a great region of competitiveness, and this is part of what Secretary Raimondo was telling us a few minutes ago with President López Obrador. We're convinced that today we're going to be holding a very productive discussion that will allow us to share vision of each one of the participants on the HLED for this second year, and we can thus agree a better path for us to continue moving forward and collaborating between our two countries. Once more, thank you so much. I want to thank all of you for your presence. Let me now give the floor to our Foreign Minister of Mexico, Marcelo Ebrard. You have the floor, Marcelo. Thank you, Tatiana. Very well. I cordially welcome all of you. Secretary of the Department of State, Mr. Anthony Blinken, Secretary Raimondo, thank you so much. I'm delighted to have you in Mexico. Welcome, everyone. I simply wanted to say this is a meeting, a strategic vision. It's a common vision between Mexico and the U.S. to build a strong region, a prosperous region as well, and some that will maintain its political weight in the world, North America. And we're just so happy to have all of you here. Where we're going to be discussing today has to do with progress we've made. This is a very positive meeting, and also invitations that we have to expand integration between Mexico and the United States on common issues, as for instance, clean energies, electronic vehicles, semiconductors, technology, and also this electromobility, which is an enormous topic, and this is the agenda. So I do think this is a wonderful occasion, and I really celebrate the fact we're discussing this. This has to do with a common vision for the future. Welcome, everyone, your respective delegations, your delegation from the U.S. and the Mexican friends that are here with us. Yes, Secretary Blinken, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Secretary Cloutier. Thank you for your hospitality here as well. Marcelo, Secretary Ramirez de la O, thank you so much for hosting us here today in Mexico City. It's just great to be back with all of you. Last year, our two presidents agreed to relaunch the high-level economic dialogue. They recognized together that a strong Mexico-U.S. relationship was vital for ensuring that our countries could actually take advantage of the opportunities of this century for our people. And since then, we've been working together on an incredibly wide range of issues, new areas, and deepened our cooperation in places where we had already been working together. To name just a few very quickly, Mexico and the United States, our auto industry leaders, are sharing information and best practices to speed up the transition to electric vehicles, which, along with other clean energy technologies, are critical to creating new jobs and addressing the global climate crisis. Our development agencies, AMEXID and USAID, are working together to provide skills and training to young people in Central America so that they can find more opportunity at home and not feel compelled to leave their countries. Our governments are finding new ways to strengthen cybersecurity, which is increasingly central to the lives and livelihoods of our citizens, from the resilience of our supply chains to the success of small and medium enterprises increasingly reliant on a digital economy. And I think we're seeing results. Total trade between our countries recently surpassed even pre-pandemic levels. Mexico is our second largest trading partner, with trade between our countries exceeding $7 billion, supporting over 1 million jobs. And all of this is not just about abstract numbers. Good paying jobs, quality benefits, better schools, stronger small businesses, brighter futures for our people when we do it right. We have our differences, as any countries with relationships as deep and wide as ours are, but we work through them in a pragmatic way, and I'm pleased about that as well, based on mutual respect. I will let Secretary Raimondo address this, but as we've discussed today, we have some remarkable new opportunities before us, in part because of some progress we've been able to make in the United States with the CHIPS Act and then with the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act. These create, I think, new perspectives to go even further in some of the work that we've already started to do, but I'll leave it to Secretary Raimondo to discuss that. But the issues that we'll talk about today, expanding inclusive opportunities and jobs in North America, accelerating North America's clean energy transition, modernizing our border infrastructure, promoting an open and secure internet, among others, aren't simply issues that matter to our governments. Profoundly, they matter to our people. Together, we can make North America the most competitive, dynamic region in the world. Both of our presidents share that vision, and it's our responsibility to actually try and make good on it. Delighted to be here and working with all of our colleagues. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias, secretario Blinken. Le damos la palabra a la secretaria
Thank
de
you so
Comercio.
much. Now, the Secretary of Commerce of the United States, you have the floor. Gina, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you to our hosts, our Mexican partners. We're having a fantastic day. It's wonderful to be with you in person in a very productive session. As Tony said, a year ago, our government agreed to restart this high-level economic dialogue, to re-engage in positive economic and commercial dialogue, to advance our shared priorities, to increase trade, to increase cross-border investment. But fundamentally, what it is all about is creating opportunity for the workers of our countries, as we just spoke with your president. And we are moving forward on our shared priorities of supply chains, information and communication technology, cybersecurity, and workforce development. We've already made progress, of which I am very proud. We've already identified the areas of the supply chain that are the most ripe for collaboration. We've shared best practices to strengthen cybersecurity, and we've implemented an Academy of Women Entrepreneurs program supporting 800 women across 13 Mexican states. So this isn't just talking, this is doing. But obviously there is so much more to do, and as Secretary Blinken just said, in the past month, the United States Congress passed 2 pieces of game-changing legislation. One, which we'll talk about later, is the Semiconductor Act, the CHIPS Act, which will make a $50 billion investment in the semiconductor supply chain in the United States. And we have already heard from all of the semiconductor companies that as they build new manufacturing facilities in America, they would like to see the rest of their supply chain in North America. And so we want to explore with you, how do we align our policies as between America and Mexico to maximize that entire supply chain and the jobs that go with it in North America, in Mexico specifically. The other piece of legislation is the Inflation Reduction Act, which is the single largest investment that the United States of America has ever made in fighting climate change. $400 billion of incentives to move us towards green technology and electric vehicles, and very importantly, incentives for vehicles assembled in North America. So I can speak for President Biden and for Secretary Blinken and our teams. We are just bursting with enthusiasm and ready to get to work. The one word of caution I have is we do need to move quickly. Companies are moving quickly. Congress has passed this legislation. The Commerce Department is already at work figuring out how to invest the $50 billion for semiconductors. We have a moment in time now, and so together we'll get to work and seize this opportunity.
Muchísimas gracias, secretario Raimondo. Y bueno,
Thank you so much, Secretary Raimondo. We're so happy to have our Finance Minister of Mexico, Rogelio Ramirez de la O. Doctor, you have the floor. Thank you. Good morning. Good afternoon, rather. What a pleasure to be here with you. I want to greet the U.S. delegation today, especially DOS Secretary Mr. Blinken, and Secretary of Commerce, Mrs. Raimondo, and Jamie White, who is the Deputy Secretary for Economic Growth, Energy, and the Environment, distinguished Ambassador, our friend Ken Salazar. Welcome. Yes, Ambassador of the United States to Mexico. I want to also thank you for being here. What a pleasure to have all of you here in Mexico. And I would also like to greet with great affection the Mexican delegation, Secretary Tatiana Cloutier, and Secretary of Economy, Foreign Minister, Mr. Marcelo Ebrard, and Esteban Moctezuma, Ambassador of Mexico to the United States. I also want to thank after a year of reactivation of this dialogue, I want to thank for the commitment shown through this mechanism of collaboration, which reveals not only the strategic vision of our cooperation at the economic level, but also the capacity that our two administrations have to go over and beyond the traditional concerns at the bilateral level. And I want to congratulate and commend both delegations for this great progress being made in the work we're all doing. And today in this annual meeting, we're going to be discussing results we've been able to reach in this first year of work in each one of the four pillars. And I'm certain that this will allow us to reflect on our priorities for the future and the importance for those accomplishments to generate a positive impact on bilateral trade, but especially the well-being of our citizens. And as already said by Secretary Raimondo, especially for workers, yes. And we shall also look into new actions that will be complementing those that we've already implemented in key areas for both administrations, as for instance, supply chains, climate change, and integration of our labor markets. I conclude reasserting the commitment of the Mexican administration so that through the Ministry of Finances, we can work as a team with the purpose of having greater regional cooperation and integration between both countries to increase the well-being of our peoples. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Secretary. Now let's give the floor to, yes, Jamie White, you have the floor.
I also want to echo my colleagues by saying thank you for hosting. We've had a great day so far, collaborating, especially with the stakeholders that had so much valuable information. It's an honor to be here to represent the United States. Ambassador Catherine Tai and I remain excited about serving as co-leads for the United States in this important dialogue. As Deputy United States Trade Representative, one of my chief responsibilities is the North American relationship, including the continued implementation and enforcement of the USMCA, which is the foundation of our economic and trade relationship. It's been 2 years since we entered into this new agreement. Along with our neighbor and ally to the north, Canada, we are all recommitting to our regional economic partnership. The USMCA represents a high standard, high ambition trade agreement that promotes the rights of workers, advances our environmental priorities, and creates new opportunities for our producers. The bottom line is this. The HLED provides a framework to engage collaboratively with Mexico on key projects to complement and fortify the foundation of the USMCA. The HLED helps advance our regional economic integration and our collective prosperity. Our partnership under the HLED supports the development and implementation of a worker-centered economic policy, a top priority of the Biden-Harris administration. For example, we are coordinating joint efforts in a number of areas, including, number one, promoting innovation and our efforts to invest in entrepreneurs and SMEs, who we all know are the backbone of our economies. Number two, expanding access to economic opportunities for underrepresented groups. And number three, pursuing strategies for joint workforce development that prioritize the tech skills and training needed to meet the demands and seize the opportunities of the 21st century. These objectives can only make us stronger as a region and reflect the values of the Biden-Harris administration to ensure that all citizens can participate in and benefit from our economic policies. USTR remains committed and ready to help guide this relationship forward, along with Secretaries Blinken and Raimondo. Thank you for your time. Thanks.
Pues muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much for your interesting comments and for the summaries and the remarks from each one of us. Let us now talk about some of the accomplishments. As we've said, they're an evidence of everything we've done this year. Now, let me introduce some of those emblematic accomplishments. The Supply Chain Working Group, when the HLED was launched last year, we had disruptions in the supply chain, very big disruptions, and we needed to focus on how to start fixing the situation, especially in terms of the priority issues. At the bilateral level, we created a working group for semiconductors and information technologies. Those were the critical sectors we were going through at that moment. As of that point, we started working as well with people, stakeholders of the private sector, the academy, civil society as well, to expand the scope of our work and to adjust our work according to requirements. And the Ministry of the Economy started strengthening semiconductors, ICTs between Mexico and the United States. And this was done for 2 days with over 300 people attending the meeting. There we held conversations on the industrial ecosystems of both countries, as well as the importance of labor development. And we had the participation of companies who went on a commercial mission, and they spoke with their counterparts. We've also been working with the IDB in the study of Mexico and the value chain for semiconductors, great opportunities now facing the new global scenario. And this goes hand in hand with what Secretary Raimundo has already said. Now, in terms of trade facilitation infrastructure, the border level, and also commercial facilitation, we've got good results there, excellent results. Our governments have agreed to continue launching efforts for the authorized economic operator program, and also in terms of the unified processing, the cargo process. And we decided to continue with collaboration and mutual interest areas through the border administration or management for the 21st century. Our governments are also looking to very important investment to launch infrastructure improvements, and also in terms of equipment, inclusive equipment with last generation technology. Here, we're also going to look into other parts of the infrastructure, and we're going to look into this momentarily. We also have the MOU between Amexid and USAID. This has been one of the agreements through the HLED so that we can work together to improve the living standard of the south of Mexico and also Central America. This is of great interest for President Lopez Obrador, and this is something that he just said in the meeting we held with him a few minutes ago, and this has to do with the MOU between USAID and also Amexid and international development. And Amexid, as I have said, to look into problems for this region, the bilateral forum cybersecurity. We're fully convinced that it is only through bilateral cooperation in cybersecurity. This is the only way our governments can develop skills and better coordination in terms of cybersecurity through good practices and international standards and best practices as well. As part of the cooperation, on September 8th, we held a bilateral forum. This was a virtual forum on cybersecurity with the participation of experts in the public, private sectors to continue working with strategies to detect, prevent, react, and recover cybersecurity events, and also promote focus based on risk management with international standards. And we also developed more work in the international task force. One of the things we spoke about in the immediate future, but also medium and long term. We've organized for that an exchange of good practices of the apprenticeship programs. Our education entities have promoted collaboration schemes at the technical level. The U.S. Embassy in Mexico and the National College of Professional Technical Education, CONALEP, Spanish acronym, with the support of the Ministry of the Economy, are now developing a pilot program so that a scientist will be collaborating in improving the education curricular in those institutions. In the visit in June, we were able to work with different Mexican agencies, private innovation centers, and public schools as well in development of a study plan, a curricular program. And we're also working to promote different schemes, especially among girls and women. The Ministry of the Economy, together with the Labor Ministry of Mexico, have promoted this program with U.S. companies operating in Mexico, with a program that the President mentioned of Youth Building the Future, to continue training youth and reorienting the skills of girls, women, and youth. And this is done through innovation and creativity. This has been a campaign supporting economic growth through innovation, creativity between Mexico and the United States, supporting also innovation and especially reducing the forging or the falsification of products that go through this piracy process. Here, the Mexican Industrial Property Institute and the patent industry of the United States have coordinated a joint campaign against this forgery and counterfeiting products. I want to recognize in a very special fashion the Mexican side, because this is the one I'm recognizing and acknowledging, because in a few moments we're going to be giving a USB with the different elements for you to get to know this campaign so that you know exactly what we're doing in this regard. In terms of regulatory convergence of medical devices, the regulatory convergence project for those medical devices has been done so that we can mount foreseeability through standards of international reference. And we've also made important progress. And we're also going to be giving you a document of COFEPRIS on the Mexican side, where we have a working line up to 2030 so that we can have a vision and how it is that we're moving forward on this. Now, here, I want to thank everyone for collaborative efforts being made for us to be able to have these results. Let me just tell you that we're going to be finishing the live transmission, and for that, we're going to have a small break. Thank you.